tip, if you ever find that your NATO rails are kind of sticky and when you're like moving around with it, it's not really that smooth, you could take a little lotion, put it right here where a little mechanism is, work that in, and then now this mechanism is really smooth. Yeah, the battery too. The first thing we're going to put on is the collar. So I like to have these NATO rail safety clips, which is this little thing, facing up. Screw these guys pretty evenly. Screw in one side and screw on the other side, screw in one side. If you do end up mounting the collar like this, it's not going to go all the way down. There's going to be a little gap right here. You need to have it like that. Now this thing doesn't have to be super tight, but just like pretty hand tight so that way you know it's not going to go anywhere. You don't want it so tight that you're going to pinch the housing. The next thing we're going to do is mount the NATO rail there. We're going to mount it onto this side. The first screw go into the most inner hole right here. Now I have the second bolt and I'm going to put it right next to it. So now that they're both in, there's a little bit of play still, making sure that it's centered on the gimbal. So again with this, we're not trying to torque it down super tight. We're trying to do a little bit of tightening on each one. Good, now we have this set up. I'm also going to add another NATO rail. Okay, so then you have two NATO rails on here. You're going to get a piece of rubber band, tie it within itself, cut the ends off, put it on. It's going to take care of all the cables and stuff. So this is now done. The next thing we're going to do for the handle. So we have my right handle, left handle, two rosette extenders, and rosette to NATO adapter. Now here's a little tip. When you put the NATO rail clamp onto a rail, it's not going to go all the way. It's going to like want to stay over here. So to fix that, either on these or on this, you're going to get a NATO rail. So let's say I'm comfortable with it being this tight, but I want to take up the rest of this slack right here. Take a screwdriver and make sure that you're putting pressure into the screwdriver head. If you let it strip, you're not going to be able to adjust this anymore. So you really want to be pushing down into this. Press down, loosen that. Press down, loosen that. If this is where I want it to be, I could just move this over so that way I could have it here. Now when I close this back up, when I open up and tighten this, it will go all the way. And the same thing with this, all you have to do is unscrew these bolts, lift it out, move it, and put it back down, and so that way you could have its quick release throw where you want it to. So this one's actually pretty easy. You just put it here, screw it in. These things are going to be mounted. They're facing downwards like that. And now when you put it on, you're just going to screw this directly onto here. Alright, so now you have your handles attached to your gimbal. Beep, 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 beep. The last thing you need to do is the vmount plate, the NATO rail that you hopefully have adjusted already, to the bolts. So you're going to take the bolts, drop them into these holes right here, screw those into the bottom, 1 and 2. Again, when you're screwing it in, you want to kind of take your time and you want to tighten each one little by little. So you tighten this side a little bit, and tighten this side a little bit. This little guy. And I like to loop this around a couple times like that. Close the rubber band like that. Here. This goes here into that, and then I like to take this and tuck that into this little slot right here, and what that does is prevents this gimbal arm from getting caught on this little. This is the 7cm NATO rail. This is the 10cm NATO rail. The footprint of this is a little bit wider. If you want the extra security, get the 10cm and bolt it onto the bottom here. Not necessary, but it gives you a little bit more peace of mind when you have Alexa Mini running on this thing. Like, you just want to make sure that it will not fail. So now you can put your camera on. And there it is, ladies and gents. Here's your handheld handlebar Ronin, what's it called? Once you put everything all together, get one of these blowers, blow off any of the little aluminum bits. This thing is one of my favorite things. It just keeps everything clean and tidy. Bam. So now here are some variants of this rig. Number 1, take out these two thingies. The advantage of this is it's a little bit more tight, it's a little bit more compact. I actually like how this feels. And if you have your gimbal set so it's a little bit faster, you're not going to hit your hands when you're moving it around. So here's another variant. The nice thing about this is that if you want, you could have the Ronin S focus, be pulling focus. I think I've done 2 shoots with this rig. They were longer shoots. They're like a 12-hour shoot or something like that. I didn't like how when you're holding this, all the weight is in your grip. Number 2, these hard edges up against your hands all day when you're moving like this. And the edges, they like eat up on your hands. I did wrap it with like rubber bands and gaff tape, but I would much prefer having these things. They're so much more comfortable, which is why I'm suggesting you guys go with this route. But if you do want to go this and have a little puller, or if you want to try it yourself, you could try this and get these guys too. If you do decide to go this route, number 1, make sure that this collar is flush flat against that. Number 2 is the amount of clearance from this to the arm. It's like a millimeter, and the only way that you're going to be able to get these handlebars on this gimbal is if you get these arms. It comes with a little washer. You're going to take the washer out, and that will just give you enough space to mount these arms on. Aesthetically, they look really cool. But if it was up to me and I were to shoot a 12-hour shoot using this setup, where I have my wood handles, I would definitely go with the wood handles. Much nicer. Much nicer. I've been actually thinking about doing this rig for a long time. Ever since Ronin came out with this universal mount, I was like, bro, that's like a shorter version of the Ronin, because I've been to a lot of shoots. You're running around all day and you have this thing sticking out of the bottom. It would be so much nicer if you just remove that. Oh, it's my phone. A lot of times you'll be sitting down and you want to have this right here. You put it on the table. It's not so tall. When you put this on the tripod, it's not so tall. When you're getting in and out of cars, you don't want it to be so big. I wanted a compact Ronin. I hated this form factor. The second thing is, it's very hard to do very fine pans or orbits, whereas if you have the handles like this, you could do more of a fine orbit. And honestly guys, these handles are so comfortable. I like them way more than these handles for sure. So way back in the day, like, okay, so what would be the ideal setup? Maybe I could have the handle on one side and have body on the other side. I would have one hand here, like this, and another hand here, and I would be holding on to the handle like this. There would be a flat plate at the bottom and I'd be able to put it down. So I went through a bunch of designs. I was designing that. I was designing maybe I could have the handle with a little bit of offset. I could rest the weight of the gimbal on the webbing of my thumb, and I could still pull focus this way while the weight's still on here. And that's kind of what ended up happening with this, which you guys will see in later video. And then later on, yeah, there was other ideas. So the first thing I did was I bought this thing and I tried bolting it onto here. But the thing is, this bolts pattern doesn't match that. It basically didn't work. And I didn't see that these things are NATO rails, and I could have just gotten NATO rail handles. So this was the second rig design that I did. I did 2 shoots with it. One of the shoots was really long. One of them was mostly on a tripod, and I used this for some like inserts. Yeah, it's great, but these hard edges on the handles on your hands all day kind of wears at the top of your hands. And number 2, all the weight is held by your grip, whereas all the weight here is held on using this little wing thing so that you can have most of the weight on the webbing of your thumb, and you can actually have a really relaxed kind of grip. It's so much nicer. These things are so much nicer. So this was like V2 of the rig. For a little bit I was thinking maybe I could just directly screw on these things onto here. The thing is that this is a rosette, and this is a 1/4-20. The M6 and the 1/4-20 screw aren't exactly compatible. Try to screw it in, it'll actually stop right there. And plus, this would look weird. Wouldn't that look weird? Another thing I realized when I was shooting the shoots I did with this setup, I like having my hands higher up, like right here. Because when you have a long lever going down, the weight is amplified onto the source that you're holding onto, whereas holding up higher onto the handles, it's like way more maneuverable, you're closer to the center of balance. So that's where we got this third rig, where we have this cute little thing where your handles are higher up, closer to the center of mass, so it's more maneuverable. Even though this does not rotate all the way, one, you're not going to hit because it's a gimbal, it's going to follow your movements, and two, having it nice, close and tight, it just feels so rock solid, and it feels like I'm in Star Wars. It's so good, guys. Like, it's so good. Another design choice that we had was where are we going to mount the battery? We could have mounted a battery onto this front side. But what happens is when you're doing orbit movements, this battery is going to hit your arms, and that gets kind of annoying. The second option was to put the battery at the bottom, but that doesn't work because it's not centered. It would fall over, basically. That left the only option, mount the battery in the back, which is actually perfect because the battery acts as a weight. You could just put it down, and this thing is pretty solid. It's not going to go anywhere. And that's one of the things I didn't like about this, is you would have to put this out and then just put it down. Yeah, I just didn't like this design because you would have to open this up and then put it down and then close this up, and then sometimes I'd be on a shoot and I really want to be compact, so I'll like take this off, I'll stick this in my pocket operating, and then I'll be like, okay, so now I have to take this out of my pocket and then find this with a heavy camera and like try to get this on here. Way too much. Whereas with this, you could just bam, shoot it, and you just put it down like that. Pick it up, shoot, put it down like that. It's so much nicer. Okay, so let's start talking about the features of this thing. One, it's modular and it's packable. This thing breaks down super small. Okay, like that. Your rig right here. It's just, this is it. Your rig. The other rigs too that we'll be talking about in the next two videos use the same parts, so you don't have to buy new parts, you don't have to use a screwdriver to put it together, you just use these. Now, this rig is not perfect. Here's a couple drawbacks that I've noticed. The first drawback to this is I wish these handles were angled slightly this way. So that way when I'm holding it, it's not straight up, they're going to be slightly off to the side. So the second drawback is I wish that this mount for the wood handle was not at the bottom, but this thing was at the top somehow. It's just an aesthetic thing. I think it would look better if it just went straight like that. Another problem we have is where the gimbal arm hits the handles like that. Honestly, this is not that big of an issue. When you're on a gimbal, you have the camera facing forward. If you have it to the side, well, why don't you just go like that? So it's not really that big of an issue. It would be nice to have it be able to swing 360, but I want this a little bit higher. And then the last issue is this NATO rail that I have down here will get kinked over time. The solution to that is either one, just put gaff tape under it. The other thing is these NATO rails are like $10. Just get more NATO rails. I have like parts, stuff. I actually have two more of those. All these parts. I was trying to figure out, am I going to mount the handles using 15 mil? I'm going to use these cheese plates. Am I going to wire manage using this? I'm going to end up using a rubber band. If you want to support, and all the links are going to be there down in the description, so you could, if you want to pick this rig up, if you want to pick this rig up with the little extensions, if you want to try these things out, support me by buying these things through the links in the description. Duh.